Good morning.
Good morning.
How's everyone doing? I feel so grateful to be invited back to speak on the Creative Mornings stage. This is my second time speaking at a Creative Mornings event. The first one was in January of 2016 in Fort Lauderdale, and no one knew who I was. In the end of 2015, I really wanted to get involved in the community, and I wanted to make some friends. So I went to a Creative Mornings by myself, didn't know one person, and I saw a speaker share his story. And I said, I want to share my story. And so I asked the organizer, can I share my story? They took a chance on me, and the talk that I gave resonated with people. So much as some people are sitting in this room 18 months later. And that's even how I met Yulia. And so in the past 18 months, since that time, my life has completely transformed to today, where I will be sharing a story on my thoughts on equality. And I'm going to be really focused on why I think we need to stop focusing on inequality. Just hear me out for the time being. But for those of you who are new, let me introduce myself properly. My name is Carlin. As Yulia said, I am the founder of the Women in Power Expo. I'm a public speaker and creator of beapublicspeaker.com. But that doesn't really tell you who I am, more just what I do for a living. And I think there's a better way to connect in this world. So in this short 20 minutes, I'm going to share with you a little bit about who I am, how I got to where I am today, and why you should all care. And hopefully, I'll inspire you along the way. Sound good? Yeah. So I got my start as an entrepreneur when I was 17 years old. I started my first business designing jewelry for an LA-based fashion company. And then that led to me running an entire business from my dorm room at the University of Florida. And this entrepreneurial spirit just continued to grow. I started a blog in college called Hello Perfect, and our mission was to redefine perfection to help young women gain confidence and self-esteem. That led to me being on the Oprah Winfrey Network and to where I am today, as founder of a national movement empowering women to connect and collaborate and grow and create successful businesses as female entrepreneurs. I was recently on the cover of Meetings and Conventions magazine as one of 15 young professionals to watch. Thank you. I share this with all of you not to look super cool or anything, but because one, I'm going to share with you a few lessons I've learned, and I want you to take them to heart. So I need to show some credibility. And two, because I want to tell you before we get into the real talk of this session, is to understand that wherever you are in your journey, especially in your professional career, everything that you've been through has helped you become, who you are and where you are today, and is helping you get to where you want to be. I would not be standing here if it wasn't for a little bracelet that I designed when I was 17 years old. Everything led into something else to make me who I am. And if we had more time, I would tell you and show you how all of the pieces of the puzzle really do connect. And so I want you to trust wherever you are, whether you feel that you're 10 steps behind, whether you're in a place of just being stuck, or whether you're at a place you want to be but ready to get to that next level. Trust where you are and never give up. So now let's get into the theme of equality. Now, most people thought, okay, Alexa's speaking on equality, it's going to be about women's equality. I mean, that would make sense, as I am the founder of the Women in Power Expo. But I always say, when you're around me, I like to say, expect the unexpected. So I was really thinking about equality and what it meant to me. And so I wrote equality on my whiteboard, and for the past couple of days, I've just been staring at it and noticing the thoughts that came about every time I looked at the word. And every time I saw equality, I immediately thought of all the inequality that exists in today's society. Think about it. When we talk about equality, a lot of times we talk about what's wrong, right? We talk about how there's still a fight for LGBTQ rights, or how there's still a pay gap between men and women, or how there's still this political climate that causes our society to be fearful. And so I question this. Why, when I think of something positive, such as equality, I immediately retract to something negative, such as inequality? We do that a lot. We tend to feed our obstacles and starve our opportunities. And this needs to change. And I noticed myself doing this, a few years ago in all parts of my life. And the thing that helps change this is just a shift in your focus. A shift in focus. Like all of, I do a lot of research on successful business women and business leaders. And one of the top things they always say to be successful in life is focus. And as an entrepreneur and as a creative, that's so hard to do. And I'm sure a lot of you guys can relate. We're passionate about so many different things. I want to write a book. I want to do an online program. I want to create these national events. I want to have a social life. There's so many things. So I was, spreading myself way too thin at one point until I finally had to take this, this advice to heart. And so how do we shift our focus? It's not really our fault that we tend to look at the negative before the positive. It's just because it's easier, right? It's easier to see everything that's wrong versus see everything that's right. So I've come up with 3 lessons that helped me shift my focus, and I'm going to share them with all of you today. The first one is making a conscious effort on what you choose to focus on, okay? Your decisions are a choice. What you focus on is a choice. The way you perceive your life is a choice. And I had to learn this really hard way. 4.5 years ago, I was getting ready to graduate college, and I had all my hopes and dreams of my future. And all of a sudden, everything was just taken away from me. A bacteria got into my bloodstream and just started killing my organs very rapidly. My body went into septic shock, and I was induced into a medical coma. I was in this coma for 6 days and in the ICU for a total of 10. This completely changed my entire life. 6 months after I was discharged from the hospital, I was diagnosed with an autoimmune disease. And I lived with this autoimmune disease every single day. And for 4 years, my focus was on the pain and the suffering and the heartache and the depression and feeling like life was just not fair. Why? Why did this happen, right? I'm a 21-year-old. I just want to live my life. I just want to have fun. I just want to go do the things I've always loved to do. But day in and day out, I would wake up in physical pain. And when you're in physical pain, it's very hard to focus on anything else but that physical pain. But 4 years is a very long time to be focused on the negative. And so I had no choice but to shift my focus. And so I started really making a conscious effort on what I chose to focus on. So anytime I would feel that pain, or anytime I would feel like life just isn't fair, or have that past fear, right? And allowing my past to define who I was, I would shift the focus on what I'm grateful for, or shift the focus on everything that's good in life. Looking at the sun and be like, the sun rose today. That's awesome. and so that really helped, because we have to understand that our thoughts are forming the world. We must choose them wisely. They're not just forming your world either. They're forming everyone's world. And that's why it's so important to stop focusing on inequality that exists and start focusing on what is good in the world. The second thing is turning fear into confidence. When we're fearful, we complain. When we're confident, we act. Let me say that again. When we're fearful, we complain. When we're confident, we act. Confidence is a very tricky thing also. When I was planning my last expo, it was at the Washington, D.C. Convention Center. Everyone asked me, Alexa, you don't know anyone in Washington, D.C. Like, aren't you scared? You booked the D.C. Convention Center. That's huge. Of course I was scared. But we're always going to be scared as leaders, as entrepreneurs, as creatives, because anything that's worth doing is a little bit risky, right? And so you must take those risks, and that comes with fear. But I was confident in my purpose and confident in my mission. And that confidence overrid any type of fear. And I get people all over on social media asking me, like, how can I gain confidence? That's something we're all trying to get because it's a lifelong process. And I will tell you that confidence really does change the way you become successful in life, in all areas of your life, in personal and professional. And so I want you to understand that confidence is a skill. And skills can be taught. And so you don't need to be born with confidence. Believe me, I was not confident at all growing up. It may be hard to believe, but when I was in middle school, I was so shy that I couldn't even raise my hand in class. And look at me now. So it can be taught. Like, even a couple days ago, I was celebrating my great-grandma's birthday, and a family member that I haven't seen in a very long time was there, and she said, Alexa, what are you doing in your life? What's your career? And I said, well, I'm a public speaker. And the first thing she said was, oh, so you're not that little shy girl anymore. And I was like, I guess I'm not. But it's good to remember that because it can be taught. Two things that have helped me become more confident, and I want to share them with you because they really can change the way that you think about this. The first thing is knowledge. Information that is applied is power. And power brings confidence. That's why for Women in Power Expo, we focus so much on the educational component. We have workshops and different tracks and speakers and keynotes, all to help women entrepreneurs create and grow successful businesses. Because we know that if an entrepreneur feels more confident in the area that they're in this business life cycle that we all go through, they'll be less likely to give up. They'll be more confident when they're sharing what they do with others. They'll be more confident going into a meeting and asking for the amount that they deserve. Or they'll be more confident pitching an investor and getting an investment. That's another thing that we're trying to close the gap on, is the amount of investments going towards women-owned businesses. And so we focus a lot on education. And so whatever craft or skill that you work in, keep on learning more about it. And I mean, you guys are all here this morning to continually learn, and hopefully I'm a good educator this morning, but just keep on doing that. It makes you more confident. The second thing is repetition. Repetition breeds confidence. Put me on a soccer field and I will not be confident at all. Put me on a stage and I'm a little bit more confident because I've spoken on 100 stages in the past 2 years. So if you want to be confident in a certain area of your life, do it over and over and over again. So going back to the 3 lessons, we're on number 3. On why we need to shift our focus from inequality to equality. The third thing is knowing your worth. Now, this is probably the simplest lesson I could possibly teach you guys, but it seems to be the hardest lesson to grasp. Everyone's like, yeah, I know I'm worthy, I'm worthy. But if you really understand it in your core, it changes how you interact with people. Talking about equality, knowing your worth, whatever your sexuality is, whatever gender you identify with, wherever you've come from, your background, knowing how worthy you are as your unique self. all of you have the capability to make a huge difference, to accomplish what you want to accomplish in life, to make an impact. And I could say this all day long, and if you stick around with me for long enough or follow me on social media, believe me, I will tell you again and again, because repetition breeds confidence, and I want you to be confident that you are worthy. But I look to science to see if I can get it a little bit more ingrained into your mind to understand just how worthy you are as yourself. Now, it all goes back to the odds. The odds of being you are basically 0. Now, let's just go over this for a little bit, just in the beginning. So basically, the odds of your mom meeting your dad is 1 in 20,000. Then it goes on, because we know how the dating game is very tricky. So the odds of them sticking together to the point that they want to have a child now becomes 1 in 40 million. Now it goes into where, the sperm meets the egg, and the odds of you becoming you instead of your brother or your sister now get to 1 in 400 quadrillion. Then it goes into all the scientific stuff that I'm not knowledgeable enough to confidently explain it to all of you, but basically it comes down to the odds of you being you are 0. How mind-blowing is that? How incredible is that? And if you want this graph, you could email me after and I'll send it to you, because it's so interesting. And so you can't let your individuality, your uniqueness, go to waste, because there's no one like you. And so you have to own who you are, and you have to know your worth and share that with the world. Because you keeping it to yourself is doing a disservice to the world. So now going back to our grand theme of focusing on equality. Don't wait until you have something to be someone. Don't wait until you have something to be someone. You are already someone of worth. You are already equal in at least everyone's eyes here. And as you understand that, you start surrounding yourself with people who love and respect you for who you are. And so we're shifting our focus from inequality to equality. And I have to say, I'm actually a little bit grateful for the inequality that has existed in our world so far. And I know that sounds so crazy, but just hear me out. I believe that it's inequality that has helped people discover their fullest potential. Think of all the leaders in the world. Martin Luther King Jr., for example. He discovered his fullest potential because he saw something that was not right and he wanted to change it. He wanted to make the world a more equal place to live in. And so it's the obstacles and the struggles and the things that we don't think are good that push us to discover who we are and what we're capable of. And that to me is amazing. And so share that. Think about if on social media and in the news, it was all, videos and articles about people doing good and people accepting one another. Don't you think more people would accept others for who they are? Because let's face it, most people are followers, right? You don't raise your hand until other people raise their hand. That's just the way it is. And when you see all of that inequality, it's kind of like following this downward spiral of a trend. But if you saw more people doing random acts of kindness, it's like, maybe I should jump on this bandwagon and do a random act of kindness today. And so I'm asking all of you as South Florida leaders and South Florida creatives and the movers and shakers of the world to change that, to see the good before you see the bad. Look for the positive before the negative. We must believe that we can all have an equal chance to make a difference if we want any real difference to be made. Thank you.